When we're working with client-side JavaScript and web apps, we've grown used to the set of dedicated dev tools that come with Chrome. We have the console, we've already used that. We can look at variables, we can run JavaScript, we can view errors, and we have a bunch of other tabs. For example, elements where we can view the rendered markup, but none of these tabs are specific to React. There actually is a set of React dev tools that we can install. It is an extension and it is available for Chrome and Firefox. That's going to add a brand new tab into the developer tools with React specific information. It's going to make debugging a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and grab that. You can either Google Firefox React dev tools or Chrome React dev tools. And then we're just going to install the extension. Right here, I have the React developer tools for Chrome. All you got to do is add it to Chrome. And once it's added, we are going to need to restart that tab. So I'm going to add the extension, close, and right away you can see nothing's changed. And it's not enough to just close the dev tools. We have to actually close the tab down completely. I'll then head back over to that URL. Open up the developer tools once again. You can use the keyboard shortcut or you can go to More Tools, Developer Tools. And now we have a brand new tab. We have this React tab, and you'll also notice we have a little icon up above. Both of these are because we installed the React developer tools. We can kick things off up above. This button does not have a whole lot of functionality, but if we click it, all it's saying is that we're using the development build of React, and that is okay for the moment. We're going to look at how we can set up React for production later. So this little icon just keeps you in check with what your application is up to. It's only really going to show you that sort of information. It doesn't have a whole lot more to it. And honestly, I usually hide this in the Chrome menu. So it's still available to me. It's just available over here as opposed to taking up valuable screen real estate. Now, the core of the developer tools, that lives down below. And if we crack this open, you can see it took about a second to connect to the React app. And then what we get is something very similar to what we see in the Elements panel. In the Elements panel, we get our markup. In the React panel, what we get is we get our JSX tree view, which means that we're actually seeing the element with the name Indecision app. If we expand that, we can view what it renders. It has a div and it has the 4 components: header, action, options, and add option. We can expand any of those and we can see the markup that they render. Now your components are highlighted and regular HTML is shown in gray. As you can see here, we have some regular markup shown in gray. Now on the right-hand side, we also have access to a little more data about the component that we currently have selected. Over here, you can see we have the 2 props, subtitle and title. Both of those do indeed get passed in, and they're both visible right here. We can also view the state for a given component, for example, Indecision app. Indecision app has a prop and a state value. If we go ahead and actually add an item like A, B, and C, we can see the state array now has 3 items, A, B, and C. All are showing up correctly. Now, the developer tools also allow you to search. So as you have more components, it can get a bit harder to find what you want, but you can always just search by component name. So add option, for example, is going to allow me to isolate the add option component. I can then expand that and do whatever I need to do in terms of debugging this guy. Now, just like our other components, when the state changes, if I try to submit the form with no data, the error does indeed show up. We see it show up down here as well, and we also see it reflected over here inside of the state panel. Now, the React developer tools are very much still under development themselves, and what this means is that some features aren't as full-featured as we might like. For example, there are some things we can edit over here. For example, I can go ahead and actually edit this value. If I click it, I can create some quotes and I can give a new string value like test. I hit enter and it actually automatically renders the application. It is exactly the same as actually changing the state via our code. And this can be really useful. We can mess around with various state values and we can watch things change. The only problem with this feature is it's not available everywhere just yet. There are some open GitHub issues related to this. So if I go over to Indecision app and I look at my state options array, I can edit the text for the individual items, but I can't add a new item on, which is actually really annoying. It would be nice to be able to customize things a little more. I could, however, go ahead and change the first one to something else. That is indeed going to work. I just can't add and remove individual items. So the React developer tools are very useful. I do recommend getting comfortable with them. If you ever get into a situation where you're not sure why the data isn't flowing correctly, just come over here. It's going to make it very easy to see exactly what's rendering to the screen. One last feature of the DevTools I do want to note is the little == R right here. And you'll notice this follows us wherever we go. So if I click action, it's now over here. If I click header, it shows up over here. If I switch back to add option, we can actually explore this. Now, this is a global variable that you have access to in the console, and it's set by the React DevTools. Now, we only have access to it when we install the DevTools and when we click an element. Whatever component we currently have clicked, we can access via the $R variable. So in the console, that's going to be $R. We can run it, and right here you can see I'm getting add option. On add option, I can take a peek at all of the various things. Amongst those things, we have our props, handle add option, and we also have our state seen down below where we have error set to test. Now, if I were to go ahead and click a different component like indecision app, and access $R again, we're going to see that we're now looking at the indecision app component. We can view that component's props, and we can view that component's state. So I don't find myself using this particular feature too much, but it is nice to know it exists. When I'm using the React DevTools, I'm usually over here. I'm diving into the individual components and checking out how the data is flowing. So that is it for this one. We have the React DevTools set up. As you move through the rest of the course and you get stuck, which is inevitable, try to use the developer tools, the console, the elements panel, and the React DevTools to get unstuck. Debugging starts off as a very slow and frustrating process, but the only way to really get better is to actually do it. So every time you debug an issue, you're getting a little faster, and before you know it, issues that used to take you 20 minutes to debug will take you just 10 or 20 seconds. That is it for this video. We're going to continue on in the next one.